All right, what's up, guys? We're back with another episode of Inside the Locker Room. We got all of our co-hosts today, NFL playmakers, Adam B. Sports and Michael Sports Talk, back with another episode today, and me, Sports Talk with Dudes. And we're going to start in the NFL. Jackson Dart, we're going to give our predictions over or under 4 starts. It's going to be interesting to see how he pans out. We've already heard early reports of Jackson Dart, and they're really good right now. Then pan over NFL cover, all that. Titans, rookie wide receivers. Who will come out as a rookie wide receiver three? We're gonna give our thoughts and predictions. And then the NBA Finals is happening tomorrow. We'll give our opinions, thoughts, predictions, and a look back on the conference NBA championships. What we're going for the Knicks, what we're going for the Timberwolves. Then some special MLB around the league, our top 5 predictions, MLB MVP race, all that good stuff. Plus, we'll give our thoughts and opinions on the FIFA World Cup and the Champions League coming up. But stay tuned for this episode of Inside the Locker Room, and let's get started. New York Giants, they've had an interesting offseason. They got Jackson Dart in the draft in the first round. Not a lot of people expected that. And it's been reports coming out that he's been looking pretty impressive in camp. And I just want to hear y'all's opinion on where do y'all believe or when do y'all think he'll start and where do y'all think he'll start the season on the roster? I've gave my opinions. I think he'll start behind Russell Wilson, eventually make his way up towards mid-season. Giants' schedule is pretty difficult, and I think they're going to use Wilson as a scapegoat, like they do sometimes, and throw Dart in there in the action. But not to mention, don't forget Jameis Winston also has a strong case to be quarterback one. It'll be an
Most of.
interesting race, but my opinion, I believe Jackson Dart, can start sometime after midseason. That Giant schedule just looks very difficult to me, and I think they're going to change the
Mhm.
quarterbacks quite frequently. But I guess Benji, we can start with your opinion. Where do you think Jackson Dart will start the roster on, and when do you think he'll get the starting spot?
So I wouldn't be really astounded if he got the nod towards maybe mid-season, towards maybe the end of the season. We know that Russell wasn't really that healthy last year, which is the whole reason that, they tried it out, Mr. Justin Fields here. But and thank you for the quarterback, Pittsburgh. But anyways, for Jackson Dart, I would have him under 4 starts personally because the Giants are in a position to kind of not throw a rookie quarterback to the Wolves, and that's like a rare opportunity for the Giants and just New York sports in general. So I hope they take that safe route. But yeah, even though he's been kind of cooking with some of the rookies there in camp, like Cam Scadaboo, I think they would be smart to just let him sit most of the season and learn behind 2 veterans at his position already. Adam, I want to know, what do you think about Jackson Dart? Do you think he starts over or under 4 games?
I'm also gonna go under 4 games, just because, yeah, I don't. I think they're in the position to not ruin their franchise quarterback or supposed franchise quarterback. Um, it sometimes like a quarterback plays so good and looks so good in practice that eventually they force their way onto the field. But as long as Russell Wilson is steering the ship all right, and they do have Jameis Winston, so I think they'll wait as long as possible. I think by the end of the season, I mean, because it is a crazy quarterback class next year, and they could be in position to get a top quarterback as well. So they still need to see what they have with Jackson Dart. So I think it will be. That's why the 4 is an interesting number, but I'll go under 4. What is your take on that, Michael?
Yeah, I'm gonna go under 4 as well. Russell Wilson being the starting quarterback there and him being the leader of the ship. I just don't see the Giants starting him early, Jackson Dart early. I think Jackson Dart is going to be the masterpiece, the future of the Giants. But as far as right now, they're not going to start him over Russell Wilson. They're going to let him sit back and watch the veteran leadership between Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston. Now, I don't think they're going to put Jackson Dart over Jameis Winston. And to be honest, I think Jackson Dart will probably be over Jameis Winston. But as far as him starting, I just think the Giants are going to let Russell Wilson, play it out because I think he only has like what 1 year contract with them.
Hmm.
So they're probably just going to let him, you know, either finish out this 1 year contract they have and probably release him or they start Jackson Dart midway into the season. So I think it's going to be under 4 games too.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see because, I don't knock what Jackson Dart did in college. In fact, he did amazing in my opinion. But yeah, I just think the veteran leadership and like experience that Wilson and Winston have over Dart is going to play a huge factor. But I did note on a recent post that it'll be interesting for me to see more of the Dart Winston race to see who will get QB2, QB3 than the Dart Russell Wilson to see who will get QB1. But with that being said, if Dart does win the QB2 position, which I know Jameis Winston will put up a good challenge because I never knocked Jameis Winston out as a quarterback, what he did in Cleveland and what he did for Tampa, in my opinion. But um,
Especially what he
if
did for New Orleans as well.
yeah, I just
Yeah.
believe that if he is the quarterback, if Dart is the quarterback too, and it's a little early to say that, but if he does end up getting the quarterback two position and Wilson does, and I'm not praying on injury, but if Wilson was to supposedly get hurt, I think Dart could step in and, maybe lead that ship. But
Yeah.
for me, I think he plays 5 games. I'm not really too much on the under four. I think he can play 5 games because, like I said before, that Giant schedule is pretty hectic, and I think if Wilson is hurt or if Wilson just isn't performing well, the Giants will look to change quarterbacks. But I believe in Russell Wilson. They signed him. I think he can still make plays with the ball. I really never looked down on him, even from the Seattle days. So I got high hopes for him. But the AFC South, Titans, rookie wide receivers, they got three. Adam, they got three or four.
They got,
3, yeah.
they got
Yeah, three. And I want to hear which Adam, and we can start with you because this is what you really want to talk about. Who do you think will get that wide receiver three position? It's a lot of competition right there. You got a few undrafted, and you got one I believe drafted in the fourth round. So it'll
Mhm.
just be interesting to see who gets that QB3. I'm not QB3, but wide receiver three spot. But I want to know your opinion. Who do you think will lead Tennessee and get that wide receiver three spot?
So I'll just do a quick little like overview of all of them, and then I'll just give my take. So we got Chimere Dike. He was drafted in the fourth round. Alec Iomanor was also drafted in the fourth round, but later than Dike. And then you have Restrepo that was undrafted. However, he was the college teammate of Cam Ward, and I mean he's probably going to be a slot specialist. It's like he had the slow 40 time, which is probably why he went undrafted. But like he's a technician. Kind of reminds me of Hunter Renfrow a little bit. Iomanor, I wrote a profile on him before the draft, and honestly, I had him as a second round talent originally, so he definitely fell down boards, and I don't think there was necessarily a reason for it, except for there was just a lot of meat and potatoes in the draft at a lot of other positions. So it's going to be really interesting. That's why I wanted to talk about it, is just because you had two that were drafted in the fourth round, and then you have one that was an ex-college teammate. And then you also have Tyler Lockett coming on as a one. He just signed a 1 year, $4 million deal. So it's like you could almost see him not necessarily like he probably will be the wide receiver too, but you could see multiple like by the end of the season we could see two of the rookies as wide receiver 2 and 3. Just because he's at this point he's probably better as in like a mentor type of role. That's he helped JSN a ton, and then Jackson Smith and Jigba had that huge breakout season last year. But so I'm gonna go with Chimere Dike though. My reasoning for that is yes, draft capital, but he runs a 4.3440, which I did not know that going into the draft. He was a huge sleeper for me. I won't claim that I knew a ton about him before the draft. He has a pretty average vertical and broad jump. It's a 38.5 inch vertical, 128 inch broad jump. But he's kind of that like interesting size at 6'1", 196 pounds. His body type kind of reminds me of like CD Lamb a little bit. And from that standpoint, like I was watching some tape before we went on air, and he's a lot stronger at the catch point than a lot of people would think with that like more frail body type. But so he's electric when he gets the ball in his hands. Like he's fast enough to run around the corner. He does a little bit of everything, but he's definitely not like a fully developed receiver. But yeah, I'm gonna go with Chimere Dike, even though he didn't have the like great college production, but clearly the Titans saw something in him because they were willing to invest the higher fourth round pick in him.
Yeah, I know like one thing for me, but when I was looking at all these receivers, each of these receivers can make a case to be that wide receiver three. Restrepo was he in fact leaded them other two receivers in receiving yards, and I looked at it earlier. He had the most receiving yards, and on top of that, out of the other two wide receivers that we're talking about,
Hmm.
but and he also had that connection with Cam Ward, that chemistry. It's already there, so that most definitely plays a factor. But like I said, the Titans saw something in DK and Ayo Maynor, or however you pronounce it. I don't know how to pronounce it, but they
Yeah,
obviously
I
saw
know that.
something in those. Yeah, they obviously saw something in those two receivers to draft them in the fourth round. So, like for me, I still don't even know who I think is going can take that wide receiver three spot because each of them have a valid case to make it. Like one, I say Restrepo 1 minute because he has that Cam Ward connection, but at the same time, I think the Tennessee Titans look at what he did in the combine and why he slipped on these draft boards, and that plays a factor. But in the end goal, I believe that if I wanted to say it, I think he can have the most success with Cam Ward. Restrepo, he can have the most success with Cam Ward just due to the college
Agree.
connection and chemistry that's already there. And like I said, maybe like Adam said, maybe his 40 did drop, but that I still don't think that takes away from the player that he is and the production that he had on the field. 2,000 yard seasons, that in Miami's offense, that's pretty incredible. It's sad that he dropped, but all these receivers are gonna make. I believe all of them are gonna make the roster. Now it's just gonna be. I think it comes into after training camp to when we see who really gets that wide receiver two, wide receiver three position. But Benji, if you want to give your take on it, I'm open to hearing it.
Yeah, man. I mean, you guys kind of hit the nail on the head with Restrepo a little bit already, but an important detail that we left out, he had the all-time receptions record for Miami as well. So, I mean, while he was in college, he definitely like paid his dues and was just a great player in general. So, not only on top of that, but with the Cam Ward connection, he's just going to be, striving for his boy there. But he does have, I guess, the biggest hurdle, I guess, to leap, considering he did go undrafted. But I think his stats were just really nice in college. He had 1,000 yards last year, or 2,000 or two 1,000 yard seasons, like you said, and then Adam before saying about his 40 time dropping to 4.87, which is a little surprising. But I think Restrepo as a player, like Adam said, him as using him as a slot, I think it could just be a weapon for Ward that he's already comfortable with. And especially as
Hmm.
a rookie quarterback, I mean, they have other pieces like Calvin Ridley, and then, now they added Tony Pollard, I believe now, right? Am I thinking about the wrong running back?
No, yeah,
Oh,
they've had him for a couple of years, but they added Tyler Lockett's the other wide receiver they added.
Yeah. So there are definitely other pieces for Ward to work with, but I guess out of these three rookies we have here, he would definitely just be the most comfortable with Restrepo, and it kind of reminds me of another connection here, like Justin Fields and Garrett Wilson. I just think it's just a positive thing for just the whole team, just somebody to just go to and just. I mean, sometimes you could just even just
You could almost
Restrepo's
say
down
like
there,
CJ
just
Stroud,
chuck it.
the way
Yeah,
like the way CJ Stroud like personally requested that the Texans draft Tank Dell. I mean that worked out really really well. Other than injuries, he's been a baller. And it was probably the same type of situation with Cam Ward, where he was like, "All right, this is my old college teammate. I know we didn't draft him, but okay, can you guys try and go get this guy?" And it's just like they do really complement each other really well. DK can be
yeah,
like that other deep threat opposite of Ridley. Io Manor, he's the big guy. He's the 6'2", 205 pound guy, but still runs a 4.44. So he could just be that like really big possession receiver across the middle. So him and Restrepo can be like both maybe playing the slot and like across the middle. But
mhm.
Michael, what's your take on these receivers we got?
yeah. So I've been been actually doing some research over here, just like thinking about these guys. And I'm gonna say, it's gonna come down between Retro and that Amar guy. I don't know how to say his name. His name
I
was,
think
I'm
I
trying to
think it's
pronounce his
I
Io
last
Manor, but
apologize.
just
Yeah.
call him
name.
Alec. Just call him Alec. It's all good.
Alec. Okay, I'm just gonna go with Alec. I think it's gonna come down between Xavier and Alec because those guys have shown a magnificent athleticism, skill set. Those guys are very dangerous in the slot. But one thing that I like that you guys made a comment on is the connection. And I think that goes a big way for Cam Ward because let's be honest, when you have another teammate with you, that connection is already there. And I've seen highlights of Cam Ward, swing arm in that Joker. You know what I'm saying? And the connection is already there. But I think what's going to determine is that training camp and preseason. Just how much athleticism, how much talent, how much catching ability. Just what can they do in game to determine that, okay, we can trust you in the slot, because that's what's going to come down to. That's the whole point of preseason. Who can we trust? Who can we look at to be like, okay, in games we can trust Alec, or we can trust Xavier. But if I had to choose someone, I'm probably gonna go with Xavier, because looking at this guy, and like you said, he ran a 4.4 in the 40. The guy has a very good athletic capability of being a slot wide receiver. I see it in him, and I see the connection, and I think that connection is what's going to make Titans coach see that, okay, there's a connection here. Let's use that. Because if I'm a coach and I see a connection between two players that played on the same college team, am I gonna use that in my advantage? Absolutely. Why wouldn't I? If no one can stop it, let's try it. And if someone, and like I said, they have depth in the slot. Let's say Xavier don't get it. You got Elliott. He's also athletic. But I think the thing that we also need to think about is, do the Titans have enough depth in the slot receiving room with Xavier and Elliott? That's also another question. And I'm going to answer that question for myself. To be honest with you, they got it. Both
Yeah,
of those guys got it.
I mean, and I was looking at Alec, whatever his name is. And like I know that he was second team all ACC, but something that did stand out to me is he had a slight drop off from 2023 to 2024. And I was looking at the stats, 2023, 62 receptions, 1,013 yards, 6 TDs, and then
Mhm.
similar receptions in 2024, 63, but this time his receiving yards dropped to 831 receiving yards and still 6 TDs. So while still productive on making the All ACC, yeah, I think that's just like a little that stood out to me, his little drop off. But I didn't watch too much of Stanford's offense to be real, so I don't
It
know
was
what
bad.
factor. Yeah, I don't know what factors played into it. And I know, and I got to probably look at their record from last season, but I just know that most definitely played a reason in that in the slight production drop off, but that still doesn't take away from the player that he is. But that being said, I think all three will make a case to be great depth for the Tennessee Titans. If even if they don't become a star, great depth that's needed for the Tennessee Titans alongside
I
the other
think I
receivers.
think depth is so important when it comes down to especially what the Titans need, which is a slot right receiver. It's best to me. It's best to have two good slot receivers than just one. Because let's say I don't wish nothing bad on nobody, but let me be honest here. Let's say Xavier gets hurt during training camp, and he'd be out for like a couple of weeks, or during the start of the beginning of the season of the NFL season. Then you can go to Ellick. You can go with him. Like I said, those guys have made the competition for the slot wide receiver room so competitive that it's hard to decide who to go with. Like I said, I think the training camp and the preseason is really going to determine who is the best fit for the Tennessee Titans slot wide receiver position. That's what it's going to come down to, because it's hard enough already as it is to decide. I don't even know much about these guys. I'm going to be honest. I don't know much about these guys, and I can already tell right now, I don't know who's going to start. So it's just like it's gonna come down to the preseason. It's gonna come down to training camp. That's what it's gonna determine. That's
Yeah,
I
so
yeah.
far.
And Restrepo's been the one that's looking good. And he's been the one turning heads in training camp. And it's like the 40 time almost, you can almost just throw it away when you're looking at it like a slot, especially a small slot. Like Hunter Renfro, I don't know his exact 40 time off the top of my head, but like that dude, it's more about changing direction and just like making the DB go one way as you go the other. And like Hunter Renfro, watching some clips, like that dude can literally, he almost go like falls down onto the ground, like he's so low to the ground. But he had some crazy seasons for the Raiders. So I see Restrepo like it's not like an exact player comp, but like he really does compare to him well. And honestly, like Iomanor, that dude can play on the outside too because he's got the speed and he's got the size. So
And he's physical too, not to
he's
mention.
he's real physical. Yeah,
He's real
exactly.
physical.
So I
Like
mean, you could see Ridley being he's probably going to be like, of course, probably one of the outside receivers, but like it's going to be really interesting who's going to win that other X role between DK, Tyler Lockett, or even Io Manor. And then like I said before, like Io Manor, he's got the size, so like it's cool to have that like smaller bodied guy in the middle and then the bigger guy in the middle, and it's nice to have the versatility of a guy that can play outside or on the inside too.
Yeah. All
yeah,
right. So jumping into our next little topic for all of our, and this gonna be a quick little topic, but for all of our Madden fans, they just released
Yeah.
the Madden 26 cover, and Saquon Barkley is our 20 Madden 26
Oh
cover.
no!
Sean.
Last year was CMC, and I'm gonna say this. Let me get this out the way. I am proud
Your
of
reaction
Saquon
was
Barkley.
priceless, bro.
I mean, look, I've always liked Saquon Barkley. I just don't like the Eagles. And like as much as I want to buy it, you can see me buy the other like deluxe cover where it's gonna have a different player. I mean just me, and I'm not trying. I just can't. I can't buy nothing with the Eagles player on it. I just don't like the Eagles. I respect the franchise. I just don't like them. I'm just a serious, passionate Cowboys fan. But like
I
I
totally
said,
get it.
I'm proud of Saquon for getting the cover. I mean, I wish they would have actually like instead of recreating it, like just use the actual,
The
pitch.
jump
I mean,
itself, you're
footage
saying?
from the actual
Mm.
game and did it. But I mean, the cover is still clean at the end of the day. I mean, I didn't notice how the Jags logo isn't on the helmet, but at the
Mm.
end of the day,
I think
I think it's a really cool cover. I think Madden 26 is going to be actually, for some reason, I think Madden 26 is going to be actually a good game this year. When
Yeah, the
you hear
trailer
that
came out today.
they're taking some inspiration from college football 25. So I think that's most definitely improv for Madden. But I want to hear y'all's opinions on, Saquon getting the Madden 26 cover, and we can just make it quick so we can jump to our next topic.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
guys
I'll
go.
go
I'll go
really.
last.
Yeah, I'll go really quick here. We saw Saquon making some cheesesteaks in Philly. Shout out JF, also from Philly. My boy Justin, Eagles reporter there, and yeah, well deserved for Saquon. He put the team on his back last year. He's all-time Eagle already. I already say it. Like he even said, Saquon even came out himself and said, "Don't be surprised if I'm one of those guys that just retires in a couple of years, like just randomly." Because like his accolades just from last year alone are just insanity to me. I mean that I feel like the thing I'll remember most about last season, not just about I guess Saquon's dominance and the whole Super Bowl ring and everything, but I think I'll never forget that run he had against Washington. Like, guys, like Washington was taking like maybe like almost 10 minutes for their drive in like the first quarter, and maybe 10 minutes is a stretch, but it took them a while to get down the field. And as soon as the Eagles get on offense, Saquon just takes it to the house on the very first play on offense. I think that play was just legendary, and also that play of the hurdle, obviously, was legendary, and couldn't be happier for Saquon, honestly. And I couldn't be happier also that Giants fans have one more thing to remind them of what they lost.
You want to go ahead, Michael?
yeah. Um, first and foremost, I've always been a huge fan of Saquon Barkley. I've always admired his run game, his ability, his leadership, his desire for the game, and the guy the guy came a long way. The guy was having a lot of hamstring injuries, and now he's a Super Bowl champion. Now he's on the man cover. Like this just shows you guys that it doesn't matter how low you get in your NFL career, it's never too late to come back up. And I'm so grateful to God that he was able to do the things that he wanted to do when he made it to Philly, made a Super Bowl champion. He was a big impact of that Eagles offense. Like when there were times the Eagles couldn't even pass the ball at times, and they depend on Saquon Barkley, and he delivered. That I'm so grateful that he's on the man cover. Now, as far as like the image of what they use, I saw the background, the background part. Like well, not the background, the official making of the image.
Mhm.
I don't
Yeah.
think they was trying to involve Jacksonville in that post, probably because of probably lawsuit figures or something like that. Because let's be honest, I wouldn't want my team on that cover either. Them jumping over one of our players, like, come on, I don't think they was gonna have put that on there, no way. Because I think every Jacksonville fan can agree with me on that. No, I wouldn't want that on there either. But I mean, everyone knows, like, if you watch the game, I even remember it, like, that was one of the most I was worried for him when he did it because when you jump backwards and you don't know what's behind you, you can get popped
Mhm.
like that. Like imagine if Ed Reed was still playing. Imagine if Ryan Clark was still playing. Imagine if Troy Polamalu was still playing. Saquon would have probably been killed if he would have done something like that if they were still in a prime. Like, let's just keep it real. But to
Hey,
sum
that's not
all
even a
this up,
bad thing.
man. Yeah, like to sum all this up, man, I am so completely proud of Saquon Barkley because of what he dealt with in his career when he was with the Giants. Not saying he didn't have a successful career with the Giants, but let's be honest, he has more better career with the Eagles in his first season than the first 3 or 4 seasons when he was with the Giants. It's all about, where you can go and what team really needs you, the most because I don't think the Giants really they did what they could for Saquon Barkley. Don't get me wrong. But as far as, what was best for him, I think the Eagles him going to the Eagles and only in that first season, him doing what he was able to do, him being a X play factor for the Eagles, it made Philadelphia have a feeling. And Deuce, I'm sorry, I know you don't like the Eagles, bro. I know you don't like the Eagles as a Dallas fan and stuff like that. I completely get it because I feel the same way with the Falcons and really anybody in this season. But like I said, to sum all this up, I'm proud of him. I really hope that God continues to bless him with everything he's done. And I'm so glad that he has not had any hamstring problems because we remember he had hamstring problems back then. But he's come a long way from that. And, it's a magnificent thing for him. And plus, he's a 99 club now. So I'm also proud of him for that. So it's just such a good thing for him, and I'm so proud of him. And Saquon, if you're watching this, bro, keep doing what you're doing. I'm proud of you, bro, and I hope that Philadelphia continue to use you like they did in that Super Bowl run.
I'll keep it short and sweet. First of all, it's great for the Commanders because we know the Madden curse is real. It like more often than not, there's some major injury.
In the
Um,
CMC last year.
the last time the Eagles had someone on the Madden cover was Donovan McNabb, and he tore his ACL the following season. So congrats to the Commanders, division winning in
Chill.
2025. No, I'm just kidding. Um, but like history, that's what history shows. It's a real curse, at least, yeah, based off the numbers.
Hmm.
The only other
That's a
thing
Tom Brady.
is yes, I mean there's definitely exceptions. There's definitely
Yeah.
exceptions, and I hope I'm not
Yeah,
praying. I'm not hoping for injury for Saquon. I hope he has another
yeah,
crazy. I hope he has another crazy year, and then if he wants to retire early,
Hmm.
he can do what he wants. But the coolest thing was I thought it was actually like they just took the picture from the clip originally, but like when I
yeah,
actually saw him recreating it, like the man can just jump backwards over anyone else like whenever he
yeah.
wants to. Like it literally looked like he was levitating. I was like, "Where's the string? Like he's getting pulled up or something, right?" No, like
He
that man
yeah.
is just
He
that
had he had
freakishly
he had a
gifted.
harness. Yeah, he had a
He did
harness
have a harness.
support, but
Okay,
yeah, he did have like
okay.
a
Yeah.
harness support, and it was really hard to see. But I mean, still, he still made the jump in real life in game. So I mean,
Yeah, I mean exactly. In game, it looked
He
like
has
he was
that.
like suspended in air anyway. So I just
Yeah,
bought it. I was like, that he just did it again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
he
congrats to Saquon on getting the cover.
he has that
Yeah.
lower body IQ that that just not a lot of wide receivers have because when you can jump up that high and stay up for like a certain amount of time, like Saquon did, that's a lot of lower body technique and a lower body muscle core that you must have. And let's be honest, if you see Saquon Barkley's legs without pads on, that brother
Bro,
is shredded. So
yeah,
I
he's
mean
yoked.
the hops and all that. I mean. the guy, you can tell the guy's been in the weight room. I think we can all agree on that right there. But
Yeah,
yeah,
Yeah.
like
shout out
they
RJ
kind of had a
Harvey, rookie that the Broncos drafted, because that man joined the All Thigh Club like as soon as he was in the NFL. That
yeah.
he looks like he could carry a full workload for sure for the Broncos.
Oh yeah, for
Um,
sure.
what we
Yeah.
have next on the docket?
We
So
got NBA now, right? Do you guys?
yeah,
Yeah. Do
so
you guys
jumping
want
Yeah.
into our next, little segment, NBA is wrapping up. Conference finals are on the way, but this week in the sports world of NBA, the NBA league, we have heard a lot of news. Bronny James is supposedly getting more minutes in the Lakers rotation. I know a lot of people are going to be happy for that, and then you still got the Bronny haters who want to make up some excuse to hate on him. The Magic just got a new rebrand, and it
to?
had a lot of
Oh.
mixed feelings. But what I'm hearing is a lot of people really like the jerseys. And then even in the Knicks, Thibs just got fired, out of nowhere, which is crazy. But before we all get into that, I want to talk about the NBA draft lottery. And we're a couple of weeks removed out of the NBA draft lottery, and I think we finally talk about it and give our opinions on it. And I'll start first. I was thinking about this the other day. I think as the NBA draft lottery, as the years go on, the NBA draft lottery is just only raising more concerns and questions
Mm.
on how it's working. Um, to me, I just don't understand in what world do the Mavs make the play in, and some people can consider the play in the postseason, some people don't. I consider the play in the postseason. So to me, it's just how can you make the play in, but then get the first pick? So the NBA draft lottery most definitely has raised some questions, and I was looking at this. This is similar, in my opinion, to the 1985 situation with the New York Knicks and how they got Patrick Ewing. That raised a lot of conspiracies.
Mhm.
So I just want to hear y'all's opinion on the NBA draft lottery because, like I said before, I think they should get rid of it. I
Hmm.
think you don't. The number one, the worst team does not benefit from the draft lottery, in my opinion. We've seen the last few years. The worst team don't get the first pick. So I think the NBA has to do something to implement a different drafting system. You know, but like I said, I just want to hear y'all's opinions. And Adam, we can start with you on your opinion on the NBA draft lottery.
Yeah, though I definitely want to go first on this one. I was just talking to some other creators about this, and they were asking a similar question. In my opinion, either make it like the NFL, where it's just bottom team is the first overall pick. I know the NBA has done this with the draft lottery to stop teams from tanking, but it doesn't really make a difference. Like at the end of the day, unless you are purposely not putting the best lineup on the court, which then NBA teams will get fined for that. You have a bunch of competitive athletes that are going to try as hard as possible. In the NFL last year, you saw Drew Lock's 5 touchdown game that basically stopped the Giants from getting the first overall pick. So, like, teams are always going to try no matter what. The other great idea I heard from someone else, I can't remember who it was, otherwise I'd shut them out. But or just switch the lottery to not being like it's like what the first 14 teams get to like be thrown in the mix. Just make it the bottom five. If it's just the bottom five, then the percentages would be much more equal in a sense. Of course, the first overall team would still have a better chance, but then at that point, you don't have the bottom 3 teams ending up with the seventh, eighth, ninth overall pick. So from that standpoint, I just think it would make it way more fair. But Michael, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Honestly, I really don't understand. I never really liked the draft lottery. For years, I never really been a fan of it because it just never made sense to me. Like the worst teams only have like a 25% chance of getting the top lottery pick. And that's not
Yeah,
that's yeah, that's not like technically fair to me. I've said this, and me and my dad have talked about this before. The NBA should just be like the NFL, honestly. Like the worst team should get the first pick, and the second worst team should get the second pick. I just feel like
Yeah.
that's a much better order, and I'm doing this draft lottery and stuff like that because, like now I'm looking at this as like one is manipulation, right? Two is competitive disparity, um, and two and crazy it's a it's a ridiculous lottery system. It's it's just fully ridiculous. And I hate it because not only that, I'm such a guy when I want to see the worst teams get the best pick. And honestly, I don't know who had the worst. I think it was
Utah. It was
It
Utah, I
was
believe.
I think the
I think
Uh,
it was
bottom
Utah.
Jazz, Hornets are right there.
yep,
Yeah, yeah.
76ers.
I think Charlotte and the Jazz should have got the first two picks, in my opinion. Or like Benji said, they should just do the top five, or in my opinion, do the top 10. But I'm gonna be honest here, I don't like it. It's manipulation for other teams that you know. And I actually did some research on this, and this makes a lot of sense. A lot of teams might intentionally lose games to improve their lottery chances and potentially undermining the integrity of the league's competitive balance. That is sad to me because a lot of teams have to force themselves to lose games in order to get the first pick, and then when they find out that, oh man, we don't get the first pick, somebody else that's way better than us have better record get it. Why are we? Why it just seems like it's just a waste of time. And I'm gonna be honest, the NBA lottery is a waste of time. Let's go back to how the NFL do it. Just completely simple. Worst team get it, then the next worst team get it, and you just go on from there. I just think it's much more simpler how the NFL. Now I'm not saying the NBA has to be the NFL, but I'm just saying it makes more sense to do it how the NFL does it than to do this all NBA lottery type stuff, and it's just ridiculous.
Benji.
Yeah, I think Cooper Flag's gonna be like consider assuming that the Dallas Mavericks keep the number one pick, and I'm sure they do. But Cooper Flag's definitely gonna be insanely lucky to be learning from Kyrie Irving and oh well, Luka's not on the team anymore. Anthony Davis now. So where he lands first to Dallas will be it's interesting too because he's actually almost the same age as LeBron when he came into the league. Saw that this morning. But yeah, you guys hit it on you guys hit the nail on the head yet again with this already. So I don't have much to add in terms of what they should do. But yeah, going back to what Adam said about the NFL order having it bottom five, even either of those options are better than the lottery. We're seeing teams with lower percentage or yeah, lower percentage chances to get the pick. And I also thought Charlotte, like Michael said, I think they also really deserved it. I honestly feel like the Hornets have gotten robbed for like the past like 5 years of a good draft lottery pick, and they do have LaMelo, but
Exactly.
Charlotte is just they haven't done anything in maybe who knows how long. So that was just
You
also
know,
surprising to see. And
when
I feel like I feel like even if Philadelphia had the number one pick, it would even had been out of this world because they needed that too.
what's the
I
point of
mean,
having a lottery and all these percentages if you're just gonna have the thing that shouldn't happen percentage wise or like but they always pick like you had Patrick Ewing like starting this whole like the lottery is rigged thing way back when like and it just has continued and continued and continued like you had the Mavericks at 1.7% getting it's like I didn't think the lottery was rigged until I had a lot of people make some really really eloquent points to me and then at that point, like, I really do think it's rigged at this point. I think they're literally just like picking who is going to
It's a
be the best for the NBA or best for viewership.
it's a
yeah,
waste of time.
Hmm.
and I mean, like I've said, like now I think the NBA lottery is starting to show more flaws than strengths, in my opinion, because you're not really been the worst team is not benefiting from it, and we've seen this multiple times. And if this continues to happen, say next year and the year after this, that is going to raise huge concerns about the legitimacy of the NBA draft lottery, and like people are going
Just
to
the league
want
as a whole
change. And
too.
I
Yeah.
think,
Yeah,
yeah,
and it
and
Yeah,
I
already
think that's
has
just
too.
and I think that's just
exactly.
something that Adam Silver just needs to look into. Like, hey, because our worst teams are not benefiting from it, and then now they're about to be. I honestly don't think the Jazz are going to be good next year, opposed to them possibly have been better if they had Cooper Flag. But they don't, and who knows? Maybe they were relying on that first pick to build around Cooper Flag, and now
Yeah,
you don't get that first pick, and you can't do that. You got to rely on free agency and other players. And I'm not going to not to mention there are good players in this draft class, but Cooper Flag is, like I say, he's in my opinion, he's compared to like a Wemby and a LeBron and a generational prospect that we just see every few years. I'm very high on Cooper Flag. I think he'll succeed in Dallas, but I really do think Utah or Charlotte should have had, or even Philadelphia should have had
Mhm.
Cooper Flag in their bag. But
My thing,
with that being said, you got something to say, Michael?
yeah, no, I was just gonna say the thing that I've like noticed. How can you, as the NBA commissioner, want a team to be able to win at a high level, but you don't give them a chance. You don't give them a chance. How can Utah, how could Charlotte build around the star players, some of the star players they already have? Like we said with LaMelo and Charlotte. How can Charlotte build around LaMelo if they don't get the chance? That's what I'm saying. I don't understand this NBA lottery because, that's like with Charlotte, Philadelphia. Philadelphia at first they didn't really need anything, but now they're starting to they need to regroup their roster. But I think the two teams they need the most is Charlotte and Utah.
Hmm.
But my thing is, like I
There's so
said,
many coincidences.
right,
Like
as a
Luca
commissioner,
gets traded, they give the first overall pick to them. The Cavs got it
right.
in like back-to-back years when they needed it.
And
They had
it
Patrick
really did
Ewing,
raise
like
it,
he was a
like
New
it
York
raised a
native.
lot of red flags.
That's what I'm
It's
saying. It
all
makes
red
no sense.
flags.
It makes no sense. Dallas, they already have like skilled players. And be honest with you, I think Cooper Flag should go to more. Really, I think he should go to Charlotte because imagine LaMelo Ball and Cooper Flag together. You're already building. You're building right
And
there.
you have Mark
They just
Williams
don't
on
have
I
the
a big
wish,
team.
enough
man.
market, so the NBA
And
is
they
not
still
going to
have
do
Exactly.
it.
Mark Williams. They still have Mark Williams and other young players that to build around.
Mhm.
So,
Exactly.
these
Brandon
teams have,
Miller, yeah.
yeah.
I feel
So
like the lowest teams are being overlooked, and the NBA lottery is starting to show that. The lowest franchise teams are being overlooked because they're not being looked at as a potential threat in the company and in the NBA lottery is starting to show that. And like we all just said, it's starting to be rigged. Well, no, take that back. It's already rigged. It's starting to show that, and it's not fair to them. It's not fair to the people in Charlotte. It's not fair to the people in Utah. You want to build a better team. Give the teams that don't have any kind of potential starting or potential big wise on them. Give them the first two picks. Then go from there. That's all I'm saying. Let's just call it fair. Let's give the teams that don't have anything. Give them that.
yeah, and so look, I'm gonna give my little final take before we jump into this next little topic. I'm really starting to believe that the NBA only cares about their bigger markets,
Yep.
their bigger
Yep.
market franchises, New York,
Yep.
LA, Boston,
Hmm.
Dallas, and opposed to their smaller markets. Because I see this even in media posts. These smaller market teams are not getting enough coverage. Because let's be real, the pace and we know we're gonna talk about the Pacers Thunder later. The Pacers Thunder final matchup could be getting way more media attention than it is. We've seen other teams in the past, like the Celtics Warriors series, for instance, a few years back, get so much media attention. So I'm gonna just leave it at this. I think the NBA needs to start focusing on their smaller market teams and start showing them the same love as these bigger market teams because it's a 30 team league. I mean, you got to give it just because you one of these markets brings in more revenue. You got to care about all your smaller markets too. The smaller markets are the ones that are really coming to play, that are really showing that they want to win. They want the national spotlight. OKC proved that they were a smaller market team, and they proved that they can fit in the spotlight. The Indiana Pacers have proved that they can fit in the spotlight. So, like I said, I think next year, and maybe this gets changed, hopefully. But I want to see these generational prospects go to these smaller market teams to really make
100%.
so these smaller market teams can make a name for themselves because they've already
Right.
proved they can do it.
Yep.
But into our next topic, Bronny James, was on a two-way contract, G League, NBA, and he was drafted in the second round. A lot of people criticized him, saying that he shouldn't even have even been drafted. But he went to the G League. He did phenomenal. Even did pretty well in some NBA games. But I'm hearing and reports saying he's going to start averaging, around 10 to 15 minutes in the Lakers rotations next year. And I'm gonna give my opinion before I pass the baton off to y'all. I think this is good for Bronny. He already had his moments in the NBA, 17 points, crossed up Giannis. I think he has what it takes to perform well as a rotational player. And I said this in multiple podcasts, and we can go. And for the viewers, y'all can go back and look at it. I've said it multiple times. I believe Bronny as a rotational player benefits him and it benefits the Lakers team as a whole. What he did in the G League, just averaging, what was it, 24, 25, 26 in that area. He was averaging over 20 points.
It's like
And a lot
25,
of
5
people
and 5.
yeah, 25, 5, 5. And a lot of people did not expect that from Bronny. So for you to do that in the G League, I most definitely think that you can do that in the NBA, especially when you've already had your flashes in the NBA. Like I said, Kevin Garnett it has already had high praise for Bronny. And coming from an NBA player or a retired NBA player at that, and especially from Kevin Garnett, who is
Yeah.
a very cocky, trash
He
mouth
loved the trash
NBA
talk, and
player.
he's praising. Yeah.
Yeah. So that means a lot. And if Bronny is averaging 10 to 15 minutes, I think he is only going to get better from getting more reps in the NBA. But Benji, I'll pass the baton off to you. What is your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, just as a little bit of I guess kind of backstory or context for this, like we're all rooting for Bronny here. We watched him basically not we watched him grow up, but he's just kind of just been there this whole time. We see him streaming on 2K sometimes as as a teenager earlier, but now that he finally has, potentially his spot to, put it on the court, leave it on the court. That's all he can really do now, and that's what we've been kind of just I guess egging for at this point. It's just for him to get a shot. So you mentioned him averaging 25, 5 and 5 in the G League. We just see the improvement, right? So I'll use that word improvement. And like you said, the more minutes he gets, the potential better he can get. So really not any negative impact here for just leaving him off the court if he's showing flashes. So hope all the best for Bronny, and we'll see what happens next season for the Lakers.
Yeah, and like exactly like you said, just keep improving. Um, from the standpoint of like, I honestly think he could be a really good player. He like do it on the defensive end first. That's probably where he's gonna like make a name for himself. But like Du said, like he has handles. He took Giannis off the dribble. He did get fouled on that play. That was just they just didn't call it because it was a superstar fouling Bronny James. But like you actually like he shut up all of the haters too. Like people were saying he shouldn't have been drafted. He got paid too much, but they're just talking. They're not looking at the numbers. If you actually look at the numbers, he got the exact average that a second round pick gets for like being one of the last like 5 to 7 picks. And on top of
Yeah.
that, he's been better than I think every single second round pick. There might be one or two that actually had like a slightly better season, but like you're talking about people that were drafted like 20, 30 slots ahead of him, and
Mhm.
he's shown out and he's shown that he's a better player. And I think that he's a streaky 3 point shooter maybe at this point, but I think once the consistent minutes come, I think he's going to be a good player. I don't think he's ever going to be a superstar, but I think he can be. We'll say I'll compare him to like a Nikhil Alexander Walker on Minnesota, where I think he can be like a very good 3 point shooter. And I think he can be like a very good role player for the Lakers or whichever team he ends up playing for most of his career.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we gotta respect the journey that Bronny had in college as well.
yeah,
The health issues that he had and came back from. So wishing all the best.
yeah. I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna keep it as brief as possible. To all the critics, to all the sports analysts, Stephen A, for example,
Ruh-roh.
I'm gonna say this, and I hope that they're watching this. What do you have to say about Bronny now? Bottom line, what do you have to say about Bronny now? Because didn't I say on the previous podcast, and y'all and all our inside locker room people, y'all go back and watch it on this one. But didn't I just say that it does not matter how many games he played in college, he still has potential to be a star player in the NBA. And look what he did in the G League. Look what he has grown to a specific level. And also he's doing it for himself. He's not doing it for his dad. That's another thing. Everybody just kept saying, "Oh, he's on the NBA because of his dad." His dad, of course, had something to do with him being drafted. First of all, let's not sit here and talk like he ain't had potential when he was in college. Yeah, he didn't play long in college, and I get that. But why does it have to be how long he played in college to determine his skill set?
I
Why
mean,
does it have
he
to
had
determine
cardiac
his
arrest
name?
too.
Right. Why does it have to determine that James as his last name to figure that his dad is the reason. That's like with Shador and Shiloh Sanders going to the NFL. Those guys are going to shine. These are people's kids that you're talking about. It's not like they don't have potential. I can care less of their last name. That's basically like saying like if I was Michael Jordan's son, people would have criticized me like, oh, you're on the NBA because your dad was an NBA legend. What does his legacy have to do with my skill set right now? Yeah, he was a legend. Yeah, LeBron is Hall of Famer. But Bronny had potential. And now look at him. Killed in the G League, right? Came to the NBA. Crossed up Giannis, right? Bro, the young brother has potential. The young brother has potential. I don't want to hear nobody else say anything about it. The only thing I want to see people say, I want to see apologies because y'all stay talking down on Burning Day like was not going to last long in the NBA. And Deuce, you can agree with me on this because you're a Lakers fan. Did people always consider disagreeing and talking down on Bronny like he didn't have a chance? Yes, they did. And now people are starting to see that he's growing as a player, and now people are starting to take things back like, oh man, I was kind of wrong about him. You wanna know why y'all was wrong? Because y'all compared him to his dad, and y'all compared him to how many games he played in college. Y'all are starting to see that it's not about how long you play in college. It really determines how much maturity and how much training that you're willing to put in the game, how much dedication you have into the game. And Bronny has showed I got dedication, I got vision, I got skill, and my dad ain't got nothing to do with me. This is all me. I'm me. And that's what he's showing. And Bronny, if you're listening to this, bro, continue doing what you're doing, young bro. Like real talk. Keep doing what you're doing. I'm proud of you, bro. Whether anybody don't, but I'm here on Inside the Locker Room and Michael Sports Talk, I'm proud of you. Keep doing what you're doing, bro. Don't worry about anybody else. And I'm gonna leave it like that. On to the next
Yeah,
topic.
so I think we can all collectively agree. Bronny's had a lot of criticism. He's proved all these haters wrong, and I think it's only a uphill from here. I really don't see him regressing. I think just the more minutes, more opportunities you get in the NBA only makes you better. And I most definitely believe that he can be a great role player. There's been amazing role players I can count off the top of my head. One of the role player that I like right now, Alex Caruso. What he did with the Lakers squad in 2020 and what he's doing with the Thunder right now. He's been an all around good role player, good defensive role player. I most definitely think Bronny can just be like another Caruso, a great role player for the team.
Yeah.
Not your star player, but somebody that that is impactful when on the court. But with that being said, the Orlando Magic have just unveiled new jerseys yesterday. We got a mix of like current and a mix of throwback. And I just want to hear y'all's quick opinions on it. For me, I made a post this morning about it, saying my opinions on it. And I really like this for the Magic. It shows like a new era for this Pablo Bencera era, all of them. I think this shows a new era for the Magic. And overall, I'm just a fan of like how they combine the retro and the more modern look. I could say they could do a little bit more on the logo, but nowadays NBA logos are getting more um, less minimalist. They're getting more minimalist, less details and all of them. But I think the Orlando Magic had a better, uniform unveiling, a better uniform and rebrand than the Cavs and Jazz, for instance. I like what they did with their jerseys. But I just want to hear y'all's quick opinions on that.
I
If
like
Benji, you
it.
want to start,
Yeah, I'll go
or
real
Adam, it
quick.
doesn't really matter.
That's
Yeah,
yeah.
I'll
Go
say
ahead.
it really quick. It just reminded me of the Penny Hardaway Shaq days, and those are really fun to look back on. Just a basketball enthusiast. I actually owned a pair of Penny Hardaways back in the day, but yeah, the pinstripes are making a return, and you mentioned the logos kind of getting more minimalistic. I think the entire league needs to take notes in terms of like their uniforms, and we see kind of like the Connect uniforms with the Knicks, kind of paying homage to the little older uniforms. But yeah, I like them. They're clean. What do you guys think of them?
I like them.
I like it. You know what I'm saying?
That's all I got.
It's a step in the right direction for their brand. It's a
Orlando Magic.
like Deuce just said, it's a new vision for their program, and I'm with it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, if you see, I'm so big on change. Like change is such a big important thing for any team in the league. But like you said, Benji, I think the NBA should take notes. And I'm
Mm.
gonna say this now. I think the Pelicans should definitely take notes. But I'm not gonna talk down on that. Well, I'm not gonna talk about that right now. But
Yeah,
I love it.
most
The drip
iconic.
is there. The design is there. Shout out to whoever designed the jerseys, man. I give you a big round of applause because them jerseys, man. Whew, come on, like
Yeah.
Orlando is gonna be dangerous.
Yeah, most definitely. I like how the pinstripe jerseys have always been iconic in any sports franchise, baseball,
Mm,
basketball. So
for
I'm
sure.
glad that they brought that back. But with that being said, just almost a week after making the Eastern Conference Championship, Tom Thibodeau was out as a New York Knicks head coach. And Benji, before I pass the mic to you, I'm gonna give my opinions and thoughts on this because I said it last week. I said these coaches, what
Yep.
we're seeing in the NBA nowadays is you can have a good squad and you don't make the finals and you get fired. We saw it with
Hmm.
Budenhauser. We saw it with Monty Williams. We saw it with Mike Malone. You know, so I just think nowadays, and before I give my opinion on the firing, let me just say this in general. You can never build a winning culture, in my opinion, if you fire the head coach that is taking you and leading you to these Eastern Conference finals appearances. In no shape or form that I think that they're just using him as a scapegoat. And yes, he had his reason. He had his reasoning for, he had all his reasonings, his negative. But in general, the overall aspect, because like I said, Budenhauser, Monty Williams, Michael Malone, it's just like if you don't make the finals, you get fired. And in my opinion, you can never build a winning culture if you're firing your head coach, especially after they had a good season. Yes, like I said before, and I said this last week, Tibbs had his issue. He plays old school ball. He runs these long lineups, players playing full quarters at that. But I just don't think he should have got fired. He's had them on winning records, and in my opinion, the Knicks were only trending upwards. Brunson is continuing to develop, and in my opinion, and I'm gonna say this right here, I don't like the firing. You know, and yes, he had his flaws, but a coach that did that well with that roster to get fired just after making Eastern Conference Finals, that just makes me like run some questions. Are they just using him as a scapegoat? Because to this day, and I'm gonna say this, I don't know why Mike Malone got fired from the what you call it, the
The Nuggets,
Nuggets,
yeah.
or Mike.
Yeah.
What was the Kings head coach also?
Um,
I think like Mike Brown, something like that.
Mike
I still don't
Brown.
understand.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mike Brown.
like so all these good coaches, I don't understand why they're getting fired for just having one like bad or a season not met to expectations. Let me say that. I think
Mm.
you should give a coach at least another year after they didn't meet the expectations to see if they really should be on the hot seat.
Yeah.
But with that being said, is there questions that Mike Malone could possibly go to New York? He's, in my opinion, the best coaching candidate out there on the market right now.
Mm.
And I think he'd be a perfect fit with New York. New York already got their roster built. If they keep it intact over the offseason and Mike Malone steps in, hey, maybe he can be the next coach for the New York Knicks. But Benji, I want to hear your opinion on this because I know Knicks fan, you got a lot to say.
So I'll start it off like this. I feel like it was definitely unfair, I guess, to the people pointing to the finger at Tibbs being the sole reason why they lost that series against the Pacers. And we'll get into the Pacers Knicks a little bit there with the recap of how that series ended. But it was kind of just, it all came down to coaching, in my opinion. But this is a Leon Rose and a James Dolan decision. The higher ups of the New York Knicks, they're the ones putting these teams together and these players. So it's a little bit different to say with football, where they have the general manager and then the head coach. So I guess that would kind of be the comparison there. But with Tibbs, I feel like you could just see a lot of player frustration as well. We saw clips of, the starting five kind of getting riled up at each other, but not really going to their coach for help. So I feel like it might have been something maybe more internal than we've maybe initially thought. And you mentioned Mike Malone there too. Me personally, I don't think Mike Malone would be a good fit for the Knicks because, uh, to put it as harshly as I could, I feel like he just would be just a Tibbs 2.0. Because Jokic won that chip, in my opinion, with the Denver Nuggets, and it was mostly because of Nikola Jokic. We saw him. I was talking about this with Adam a little bit before off air. That championship that Jokic won really quick with the Nuggets, he was dropping 60 like maybe every 5 games. So he put that team on his back, and it showed again this year with them still staying alive in the playoffs and taking the Thunder to 7 too. They ended up losing that series, but as far as Tibbs go and as far as the New York Knicks go, this is the riskiest move, I believe, in possibly Knicks history. Because as you mentioned before, Deuce, he had great seasons with the New York Knicks. They had back-to-back 50-game winning seasons, but coming to this James Dolan and Leon Rose decision, it's really just to get over that hump, to make it to the championships. So they ultimately didn't believe that Tibbs was the guy to do it. And it's just really surprising. I feel like everybody's going to remember where they were the moment they heard that Tibbs was let go. I was pooping at a local park near me with my Knicks shirt actually on. So it was funny to just it was a crazy set of
You gotta be
events.
dying.
So like I don't know, man, just the timing of everything. I don't know, but surprising, no. Surprising, maybe, but the right decision. It's we're just gonna have to see. And as far as a potential head coaching candidate, I wish Ty Lue was still out there for them because like Ty Lue has like a great ball presence, knowledge, and he would actually use the lineup to its fullest potential. It's exactly what the Knicks need right now: somebody with ball presence and good ball knowledge, and somebody who just knows the game. But yeah, we'll see who the Knicks pick as their next head coach. The shoes are extremely big to fill. Jalen Brunson loved him, so we're just gonna see what happens.
For me, it's I just think like they reached their ceiling with Tom Thibodeau as head coach. I don't think they're gonna make the finals with him because I just think like sometimes, and we've seen it so many times in NBA history. Sometimes like you just fire that head coach because you couldn't quite get to like the ultimate goal of winning a champion, and then sometimes just having that new voice the next year. You've seen it I think with the Cavs before. We've seen it with the Lakers before. Sometimes you just need that like new voice, and then all of a sudden you pretty much have the same team. The rotations, the strategies are a little bit different, and then all of a sudden you're like a championship contender, or you're winning the NBA Finals. And like the biggest thing for me was just Mitchell Robinson. Like Mitchell Robinson is he was
Shout
the
out, Mitch.
clearly the better defender, clearly the better rebounder than Cat as well, and he was just where was he? Like, yes, the players are like they're the ones determining the game, but if they're not on the court, like, how can they make an impact? So, I just think like the long stretches of having the same players out there just kind of exposed Tom Thibodeau all in one
Mhm.
series. And yeah, it was the best the Knicks have done in a really, really, really long time. But I just think like they just kind of saw the writing on the wall of how he's probably not going to get them to the promised land. And just like there were so many times where like he should have pulled out Cat on defense and then like put in Robinson and like I mean and there was one game where I think it was game 3 that they won where Josh Hart looked like a completely different player. He looked like the aggressive Josh Hart that you had seen in the regular
Mhm.
season. And maybe that was on him, but maybe he was told to just kind of like, hey, like
Do
we
too
can't
much.
have you
Yeah.
like being super duper aggressive. So like you never know what happens behind closed doors, but based off what I saw on the court, like you just can't give up leads that big in game 1, and
Mhm.
there was some large collapses that I think could have been avoided basically.
Yeah, I agree, honestly. I think, to be honest, I didn't like the firing at all because I've always watched and admired Tom Thibodeau's coaching experience, his coaching style. Yeah, he's old fashioned, but sometimes the old is better than the new. You know what I'm saying? So, at the same time, I think it just came down to how the Knicks performed in the NBA Finals, really in the playoffs in general. When it came down to the NBA Finals, you know, do I wish they would have gave Tom Thibodeau more time? I think so, because in my opinion, there's a saying that an old coach used to tell me that if there's progression, don't kill it. Continue the progression, because and I feel like the Knicks killed that progression because they had a 5 year uh, tenure to provide stability and a franchise rebuild, and the Knicks were doing that. Yeah, they didn't make it past the finals, but sometimes, I get it. If your team don't make it past the finals, somebody gotta go. I get it, but at the same time, if your team is progressing, like I wouldn't kill the man that's leading the team. I mean, if Tom Thibodeau is literally rebuilding the Knicks, which I think he was, I wouldn't let him go. I think I saw a bright future for the Knicks, in my opinion. They did so well. They made it to the finals. I think it just came down to how they did in the finals, which what led to his firing. But like Adam said, you never know what goes on behind closed doors. It could be something with the chairman. It could be something with the executive vice president of the basketball team. It could be anything, But I don't think they should have let him go either. I mean, like I said, if there's progression, don't kill it.
Yeah, and I mean, before we jump into like the conference finals, the recap, I just want to say this because like I'm split on the firing. Because like I said before, your coach, in my opinion, I think although he didn't get past the Eastern Conference Finals, and yes, that's a big red flag. But I still think the team overall was just progressively getting better as the
Yeah.
years go on. And sometimes when you hire a new coach, I mean, sometimes it can go way left, sometimes it can go way right.
Hmm.
Sometimes it can be for the better for the organization. I mean, we saw for the Lakers, you hired JJ Redick, and that, Lakers look like a completely different team, a better team at that. Or you can go, way left, and not be a good hiring. We see it oftentimes. I mean, not a good firing. We see it oftentimes. Sometimes these coaches or these organizations regret, firing their coach.
Yep.
But with that being said, I think in the Eastern Conference Finals just this year, it kind of raised a lot of questions. I think Tibbs in the not in the overall playoffs, but in the conference finals mainly. I think he just did a bunch of questionable stuff. Like you said, why have Cat in over Mitchell Robinson? Why have your players out there all first and most majority of the first quarter when your star players you should be getting rest and rotation like how the Pacers were able to rotate these lineups, and Tibbs just wasn't doing that. So I see it, like I said, I see it from both sides. Yes, the firing it has some sense behind it, but I just at the end of the day, I feel like I feel bad for the dude because you had a good squad, you were leading a good squad that could have possibly made it to the finals next year with
Hmm.
maybe a few more tweaks. But with that being said, jumping into the conference finals. I'm gonna start with the Eastern Conference side. Since we're already on that topic, Knicks versus Pacers, and I said this last week on the pod that the Pacers were going to win in six. And like I said before, there was no way that the Knicks. I knew the Knicks would take one in Game Five in New York, but there was no way they could just go to Game Six in Indiana and win them. I think Indiana just knew how to just play better, in my opinion. They ran the lineups better opposed to Tibbs. Constantly rotating their guys. And like Indiana's bench compare and Benji, I said this last week. Indiana's bench compared to New York just didn't match up. McBride, you expect better from him, and he didn't do that well.
Yeah.
Just that's just one player, for instance, on the bench. So, like I said before, I think the Pacers just really ran that offense and defense to perfection. And like I said this before, the Knicks had early opportunities to win. I believe, like I said before, believe they could have won game one,
Hmm.
game two could have gone their way. But just late game mistakes, missing free throws is just, and this is like what I took away from the conference finals. Like missing free throws, these late game errors is what really lost them the game.
Hmm.
Because like I keep saying, these games could have went the other way. The Eastern
Yeah.
Conference Finals for me was the most up for grabs series, but the Pacers took advantage of these Knicks early errors, I mean late game errors, missed free throws, etc., and took advantage on that and won them these games.
Yeah.
Now
Both.
all
Oh,
apply
sorry.
to the
Yeah.
Pacers in the yeah, all apply to the Pacers in the finals, but the Knicks just next season they need to learn on this, and whatever their new head coach is like, you can't make these late game errors.
Yeah.
You can't. You gotta substitute better. You really can't run your whole starting lineup and your six man
Hmm.
into the ground constantly. Like better and I'm just gonna sum this up like this: Knicks, in my opinion, could have won with better rotation and better late game management. But Benji, I hand the mic off to you to give your opinion on the series.
Yeah, I mean, another reason for, I guess, the letting go of Tibbs was just the exact thing that put him in a predicament being down 2-0 They just made the same mistakes over and over again. The defense was just horrible. I think the biggest story, I guess, just on paper, if you just want to look at stats, was the turnovers. I mean, the Pacers had as many assists, even, or Halliburton has as many assists as the entire Knicks team. So just like as a collective group, I think they needed to go to the drawing board, but they just didn't. So and it took them forever too. If they even did make a change, I think it took till like game 4 or 5 to make the starting lineup change with Josh Hart. And another thing with Josh Hart, in my opinion, he said that you mentioned we mentioned before with Josh Hart, and Deuce McBride and other pieces that were normally on the bench or normally I guess sort of flip flop being in the lineup or not. Um, they gave away those 2 games in Indiana, and maybe not given away is maybe the correct terminology to use there, because Pascal Siakam absolutely balled out in this entire series, and he absolutely deserved the ECF MVP in my opinion. I mean, Draymond Green also had a little tidbit about him. He doesn't even run offensive plays, so he's basically just playing like a street ball, and I think that's freaking amazing, especially to score 43. I believe it was game 2. So. But as far as Game 6 goes in Indiana, sure, yes, I was very proud of the Knicks for fighting, showing grit, winning Game 5 in MSG, and I think it's just still an accomplishment to even just still take the Pacers to 6 after being down 2-0. But in Game 6, I think at the start of that game, I think the very big, I guess, shift of momentum, I guess, because it was. Guys, all these games were super close. They were basically all one possession. But for Game 6, I think the big turnaround was that Deuce McBride call, him being out of bounds. I think he probably was out of bounds, to be quite honest with you. But I think if he makes that 3, it makes it a 5-point game, and who knows what happens next. But I guess kind of wrapping up my thoughts here, moving into the NBA Finals now. Congratulations to Indiana. You guys proved me wrong, because I was very, very, I guess, overconfident going into the series, because honestly, I had faith in Coach Tibbs, and I don't even blame the lineup, to be honest, because we have had 21 playoff wins in 3 years from Jalen Brunson. He was dropping almost 40 every game, and some of the clutch shots he also had were just mind-boggling, in my opinion. If you guys watched some of the end of those games, he made every single 3, like in the last 2 minutes or a minute of every time they had to respond. Jalen Brunson responded. So to anybody pointing the finger at Jalen Brunson, I honestly think you're a clown. But I will finally wrap it up here. Pacers, Thunder, NBA Finals. It's going to be interesting to see how the Pacers kind of keep their Cinderella story kind of going here. Adam always mentions that they're always in it, and clearly they always are. So I guess I'll pass it off to Adam now. Adam, what was your reaction, I guess, to this ending of the New York Knicks?
It was not exactly what I predicted, but it was pretty close. I thought we would get Pacers in 7. We got Pacers in 6.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow the game-to-game predictions I got dead on. Ended up going 11-0. But jumping to the finals, I think the coolest thing and the biggest thing to me is we're seeing the NBA moving away from these dominant 2-3 star teams. We're seeing that depth does matter, and we're seeing that keeping your players fresh, keeping rotations moving
Yeah.
is a huge thing, because you have arguably the 2 deepest teams in the entire NBA that both made the finals. Um, Also, another really cool thing is we're gonna get a first-time NBA champion. So that's really awesome to me. And like you said before with Siakam, he doesn't get any plays called for him. So I mean, Jalen Brunson, he did everything he could, but when you have a guy like Tyrese Halliburton that you can't double him, you can't even really put your best defender on him, because all he's gonna do is just pass to Siakam, and Siakam's just gonna take him off the dribble, or he's gonna pass to Nemhard or Neesmith for
Yeah, you
a
don't know what
corner
he's going to
three.
do at that point.
And there's just, I mean, you could throw a pass to Miles Turner, get a alley. There's so many different contributors. You just don't know what's ever going to come on the next play. Whereas, that's why I think the Pacers were able to just lock down on defense and just be like, okay, we're just gonna lock down Cat. We're gonna lock down Jalen Brunson, and then what are they gonna do at that point? Or you can even like take the standpoint of, okay, let Jalen Brunson get his 30-40 as long as no one else gets it like in the over 20 basically. Hey, we're going to win the game. It's like it's a numbers game at the end of the day. Like you have to find a way to get over 100 points to win most games. Nowadays it's probably close to like 110, 120. But I think the best that we have the best teams in the NBA finals, which at the end of the day is what I want. Some people would say, yeah, like you get bigger markets in there, it's going to be like a greater viewership, but like I'm more excited to watch this because you are seeing the way you can build a team differently nowadays, and you're seeing the Thunder not just trade away 5 first-round picks for one star. They're just sitting back and they're just taking another rookie, and they have Nikola Topic, who didn't even play one game this entire year. They're gonna get him next year, and they're gonna like add him along with 2 more first-round picks. So like, could easily win the finals and then just get better too, which is crazy, crazy to say. So I mean, I'll if you guys want to make a prediction, you can, but I'm gonna make my prediction and say Thunder in 6. It would not surprise me if it goes to 7. Like I'm not counting out the Pacers. Every
I
single
think
series they've been underdogs, and every single
yeah,
series they have won so far. So I'm not going to be one of those people that's going to say Thunder sweep, Thunder gentlemen sweep. I think it's going to be a close series. I just think they both match up really well depth wise, and because of that, the Thunder, I think just the Thunder are just going to have a little bit more, just because I think SGA can both be the distributor like Tyrese Halliburton and play mistake free, but he can also get to the bucket even better. Like he can take anyone off the dribble. And then, yeah, Ben mentioned this off air that Chet Holmgren is kind of just like that X factor, where like you have J Dub or Jalen Williams, who's probably the second guy behind SGA, but there's so many other contributors, and then just Chet making 3-4 threes, or you could get like a couple blocks, and then we're also just seeing how important it is to have defensive players. No one thought Alex Caruso would be talked about this way in 2025. No one thought Lou Dort would be talked about this way in 2025. But like you're really seeing how important it is to have 1 to 2 wing defenders, because they honestly made Anthony Edwards look pretty silly because he should have been trying to like split double teams. I honestly wanted to see him
Rudy
just
Gobert.
run through some people. I wanted to see him get an offensive foul and just put Alex Caruso on the ground, honestly. Like I think it would have been huge for the Timberwolves if that happened. But at the end of the day, we got the best teams there, and I'll pass the mic off to Michael now. What are your takes on the NBA Finals, or any final thoughts on the conference finals?
well, I'm gonna start with the NBA Finals series with the Knicks and the Pacers. I feel like if the Knicks would have
Thunder,
just um,
Thunder Pacers, Michael, Thunder Pacers.
no, I'm talking about the previous series.
Oh, conference finals.
Yeah, yeah, the conference finals. If the Knicks would have um, just been more better on closing out their games, the series would
Mhm.
have probably ended differently than what it did. And Coach Tim, I think, I mean, Coach Tom, like you said, Benji, I think part of his firing had something to do with, his rotation of players, and, just his coaching really benefited the Knicks winning the series. And I think that's what led to part of his fire. And, whoever the next head coach is going to be for the Knicks, focus on, like you said, do free throws, uh, defense, rebounding. There were a lot of fouls that the Knicks had, and it benefited them from winning this series. So whoever the next head coach is going to be, I will touch on those big key things on what made them lose the series. Now, I'm going to jump over to the Thunder and the Pacers. I wouldn't be surprised if this game goes for like either game 6 or game 7. But I'm also gonna go with the Thunder on this. I don't know. The Thunder just seem, not saying the Pacers don't have a chance, but it's just something about the Thunder, and I can't put my finger on it. But I'm just so highly excited for OKC with SGA and that depth that they have. It's this series is gonna come down to who has the better defense and who has the better shooters. That this series is gonna be tough. It's gonna be competitive, and this game is gonna come down to the game 6 or game 7. No doubt about it. This game is going to determine a lot. There's a lot of differences between both teams, but you know And that's also what I'm going to ask you guys. Like, what difference do y'all think is going to determine this series? In my opinion, like, what's y'all take on that?
Uh, I think the driving factor, in my opinion, in the series is just who's gonna, in my opinion, who has the better rotational lineups
Right.
and which lineups can produce more on offense and defense.
Hmm.
And and I'm gonna say this before I really touch on this like finals matchup. The Thunder and the Timberwolves. The Thunder just look like, and we say that like, oh, like we like, how do I put it? A lot of people did not have high hopes for the Thunder, just because they're not the big market team, that we see in the finals every year. But this team is a long time, a mold in the making. Like it's been a time
Yeah,
coming.
Yeah.
The Thunder, ever since the Paul George SGA trade, have been quietly building this team
Hmm.
ever since
piece by
2012.
piece, and they're not doing it by
At
trading
least,
for a superstar like KD and all these superstars. They're
Exactly.
going just through the draft.
absolutely.
So, and I say this: the Thunder purely won last series just because they were the better team. And I'm gonna touch on this real quick. Boy, Anthony Edwards and Julius Randle, if y'all want to get over the hump, y'all got to step up. And Anthony Edwards, I'm not taking anything away. You had some 30-point games, but as a star player on your team, as a number one option, you gotta, as much as you're talking, and yes, you put up 18 points, but as a star player on your team, you gotta be more aggressive. And I'm gonna say this: I watch multiple times where Anthony Edwards just, instead of taking up the shot, pass it to an open player. And I get you're trying to move the ball and worry about the team, but in the playoffs, in my opinion, your star player just has to
You gotta
take
take
that
over.
next
Yeah,
step up and really like like assert themselves as the star player. Like you're the number one. Why do you think LeBron ran through the East? In my opinion, all them years.
Yeah.
Although yes, he was a goat, but he stepped up as a star player, took all the shots, put the
Yeah.
team on his back. I feel
Yeah.
like Anthony Edwards just needed to do that this series, and I'm not, like I said, I'm not putting all the blame on Anthony Edwards because Julius Randle is inconsistent, bro, and like he was doing so good, 20 points in all them playoff games leading up to the Thunder series, and you can say, yeah, the Thunder got the best defense in the league. Julius Randle just looked sluggish out there a few games and inconsistent. And I was talking to my stepdad about this. How can you, as like, if you want to make the finals, one, your star player has to step up, but your supporting cast has to step up as well. And that just looked non-existent in the Thunder Timberwolves series. It just looked like the Timberwolves were trying to rely too much on one player, and Anthony Edwards at that wasn't just being very reliable, in my opinion. And Julius Randle, your second option, was not reliable most games because, like I said, he's playing inconsistent. But none of this is to knock the Thunder's defense because, like I said, the Thunder environment crowd, that's a hard place to play. Their defense is best in the league for a reason. They're the best team in the league for a reason. They just look like the better team.
Yeah.
Well, it's like
SGA looked like the clear MVP last series.
final
So
note on this is just like we always talk like people always talk about defense wins championships. Like we have the best defensive team, the Thunder. They also have a ton of depth. They're in the finals, and the Pacers played probably the best defense in the on the Eastern side the entire time, and they played mistake-free basketball. Tyrese Halliburton had that
agreed.
15 assists, 0 assist, or yeah, 15 assists, 0 turnover game. And in the final game, I called for a 20 and 10 game, and he had a 21 and 13. And I looked at the amount of turnovers after the game, and it was 0 turnovers again. Like that's how you win basketball games: defense and play
Yeah.
mistake free.
And like I said, I always believe in the phrase defense wins championships. We've seen it with the Thunder team. With that being said, this finals matchup, and before I give my prediction, I'm gonna say this. I think the Thunder they're just that like the I mean not the Thunder, but the Pacers are just heavily underdogs in this one. The Thunder are the clear best team in the league. With that being said, do I think the Pacers can put up a few games? Yes. But it's gonna come down to winning in OKC. You gotta win. Like the Pacers, they gotta take game two or game one in OKC if they want to have a fighting chance to win the series. Because I believe that if OKC they go 2-0 going to Indiana, I most definitely believe that OKC can take one in Indiana and go back to OKC and win in five.
Yeah.
or 6 in my opinion. So it's going to really come down to the Pacers having to step up this time, and they've been like I said, they stepped up every series. And in my opinion, I had them winning majority of the series. The Knicks one was kind of a toss up, but this Thunder series they have to step up.
Yeah.
Like they just have to step up if they want to win. And in my opinion, it's just when I say step up in terms of sense playing on the same level as the Thunder. You know, Pacers already run their rotations pretty well. All their players, Siakam, Halliburton, Turner, all these players play their part really well. But just my thing that if the Pacers want to win, they got to step up. But with that being said, I think that this time the Thunder are just a clear better team. Like I said before, that Thunder crowd and environment is different. It's the best in the league for a reason.
Yeah.
The Thunder have the best defense in the league, and I think that's going to be a heavily factor in containing Tyrese Halliburton because Tyrese Halliburton plays like a traditional point guard, whether people want to admit it or not. And I think that defense is going to be kind of a lot in finding open players, getting open shots, you know,
Yeah.
and we saw that a lot last series. So it'll just be interesting to say. But with that being said, I had the Thunder winning in 5 or 6. Not cut on 5 or 6 yet. If Indiana gets one and OKC, then I have them winning in 6. But I just think right now there I don't see the Thunder sweeping the Pacers. I think the Pacers are at least too well of a team to get swept. But 5 or 6 is going to be my prediction. Thunder in 5 or 6. I just think this year the Thunder are just the best team in the league. They remind me of the 2022 Boston Celtics. You know when they played the Warriors, or not the 2020 Boston Celtics. That's my fault. Last year's Boston Celtics, I believe, that won the NBA championship. That just looked like the clear best team. You know, and I think it's going to be a similar outcome, like you know how the Mavericks and Celtics were. Mavericks were the underdogs coming to the series, but they just couldn't get it quite done because that Boston team was too good. I think the Thunder team is just welly built, best depth in the league, in my opinion. So I just don't see them losing this finals. With that being said, also, I'm glad to see this finals. You get two small markets. You get to see, in my opinion, some real genuine hoops outside of all the superstar names
Facts.
because not both rosters don't have a roster buttload of superstars like these other rosters. So just be interesting to see. And I would tell this. I think if you're a real basketball fan, you'll stop complaining about this series and you'll actually go and watch
Mhm.
Pacers. I think it'll be a good, genuine hoops. Both teams built the same, in my opinion. Both teams play in the same type of fast pace, good rotational offensive style, and both teams have great defenses. So it'll be interesting to see. And also, a quick note is the Pacers have beat the Thunder this year. They beat them at home. So, and yes, that was in the regular season, but the Pacers have shown they can get it done in OKC.
Never rule out the cardiac kids. And honestly,
Yeah.
like I'm the most excited I've been to watch an NBA Finals series since 2020. Granted, the Lakers were playing that year, but like I'm
Yeah.
just so excited to see this. Like, if you're a true NBA fan, you should want to see a first-time champion. You should want to see
Facts.
teams that aren't there all
Yeah.
the time, like, duke it out. And they, in my opinion, for sure, the Thunder are the best team in the West. They proved they were 16 games better than the entire West during the regular season. And people are just like, no, they don't have the experience. But it's like they're showing that they are that good.
Yeah,
It's
it's been a
always
long
best to
time coming
see.
for OKC.
Yeah, it's always best to see, different teams win the NBA championship title. Because you never want to see, the same old teams because before 2020 it was Golden State or it was Cleveland. When LeBron was back in Cleveland and a lot of people were saying, oh, we need different champions and stuff like that. And ever since 2020 we've been getting that. So this is definitely exciting because you get to see another different team, whether it's OKC or Indiana win the NBA title and not seeing the same old team win it every single year. So I'm definitely excited. And I'm gonna be honest, I ain't been watching the NBA playoffs at all, but I'm definitely gonna watch this one for sure because this one right here, this one is very competitive. It's very exciting, and I'm gonna say this: the first two games it's gonna be even. It's gonna be 1-1 game. Either OKC wins game one and Indiana wins game two, or Indiana wins game one and OKC wins game two. So it's going to be a very competitive series, in my opinion. I'm definitely excited
Agreed.
for this.
Agreed.
Yeah. And I mean, I see people all the time. I think just fans in general, you know, you complain for so many years that you want to see a new champion. And then we're finally seeing a pattern of new NBA. Well, really for a first official new NBA champion that has not won one, and now people don't like it. But with that being said, jumping into the MLB around the league, and I will say this: the Blue Jays just beat the Phillies 2-1. Alejandro Kirk walk off RBI.
Let's go Blue
Blue
Jays.
Jays, they're inching closer to that wild card spot. I think they're like probably one game back. Most definitely think they can get that. Mariners and Astros though, battling for first in the AL West.
So back and forth.
Adam, I want to hear your opinion on this because I mean every day, I mean it's changing. Like right now, I don't know who is going to win the AL West, and then not to and also to mention Rangers kind of down right now, but they're just like 3 games back of being in that hunt for first. All they got to do is really turn the series around, and they could be right back in it. But Adam, I want to hear your opinion on this AL West race for first.
Yeah, most definitely. So the Mariners are really, really hot. Last 10 games, they've been 4-6. They have lost some tough games. Ran into the Twins, who are pretty hot right now. And it's yes, we're still getting back a lot of our rotation, but it's really like the back end of the bullpen that's been kind of leaving something to be desired. But Mariners just got back Matt Brash, best slider in the game. He's looked really good. They're just getting Kowar back. I think first name Charlie, but anyways, they just got Kowar back, who was injured all of last season. So I think around the trade deadline, the Mariners are going to be looking for corner infielders, so that's first and third base, and then looking for like another relief arm as well. And Logan Gilbert, he started the season and then he's been injured the entire season, so getting back that top arm from last year will be huge. George Kirby hadn't played the entire year, and then he's just now back healthy, and he's finally rounding into form. Last night was 5 innings, 2 earned runs. But the Mariners' offense just came up short. Rowdy Tellez hit a big bomb to right field, but other than that, it was just left a lot to be desired. So hopefully they can bounce back. I think the games just started a little bit ago. So yeah, it's very back and forth. The Mariners are I think a half game behind the Astros. Astros are I think 7-3 in their last 10. So it's just like similar to basketball, like especially in baseball because it's a 162 game season. You see a lot of like big runs, and it's a very streaky game. Like if you hit 3 out of 10 baseballs for hits, like 300 average is what that works out to. You are a Hall of Famer, like first ballot Hall of Famer. So it's a tough game, and that's why it's like you can't just get up, like go and stand up there and hit off major league pitching. Like it takes years and years in practice, and that's why you see it like this, where it takes a while to really get a team going. But just a little around the MLB. Tigers were the first team to 40 wins. So that's huge for the Tigers. They've been building their farm system for a while. Tarek Skubal came out of nowhere last year, won the Cy Young, and he's looking electric again this year. Dodgers showed that they're still an unstoppable force when they put it all together, taking 2 out of 3 from the Yankees, including a 18-2 win on Saturday night. Yankees did take Game 3, but that was a pretty big showing considering they don't have a lot of their starters right now. So right now, just a little power rankings. I've got Tigers moving back up to the first spot with the 40-22 record. I got Dodgers moving to second, and I think they're only going to get better at 37-24. Phillies moving from first down to 3 with a 37-23 record. Yankees from 2 to 4, and they've got a 37-22 record. Mets sitting in the 5th spot, 38-23. So you've got a lot of these really good teams that there's going to be a lot of shuffling throughout the season, especially heading into the trade deadline. And then I was going to just do a top 5, but I had to put the Cubs there at 6 because the Cubs look so impressive lately. And Pete Crow Armstrong, or PCA as everyone loves to call him, he's probably not the MVP because you got Shohei. Like it's always going to be Shohei first, especially when he's still like tied for the major league lead, I think, in home runs. But PCA has looked amazing, and that entire Cubs team is really rallying around him, and they've got a lot of other good pieces that have looked great. So the Cubs sitting there right at 6, but shout out to the Brewers because they're the hottest team in baseball right now, 9-1 their last 10 games. And then the Cubs, that's why I had to throw them in there. They're the second hottest team in baseball. They're 8-2. The only reason they're not a little bit higher is probably just the they haven't played as tough of teams as the other teams in the top five, and that's not necessarily their fault. But until you see them play the good teams, it's hard to put them like much higher than 6 or 5 right now. Also, shout out to the Rockies winning their first series of the entire MLB season. It took until June 3rd, but they got one. They still have a chance to not be the worst team in baseball history. So I hope for the Rockies fans' sake that doesn't happen and they can round into form at least a little bit. And just a little bit of love for Cal Raleigh. He's the first catcher in MLB history to hit over 20 home runs before May ended. And it wasn't like he just hit 21, he hit 22, and then he hit 23 the day after that, too. So he's looking amazing. On top of being one of the best defensive catchers, he also can hit bombs like anyone. And he does it from both sides of the plate, too. He's one of the few players to have a OPS right around 1,000 from both batting left-handed and right-handed. So shout out to my guy Cal Raleigh, aka the Big Dumper. But yeah, that's what I got for baseball right now. If anyone wants to add anything, or we can move into a little soccer talk.
Yeah, before we get into the soccer talk, I would say this though. Let me start with the Cubs. Yeah, they just lost the Nationals today. Dropped them down to 38 and 23. And I like how you mentioned that it's not their fault they haven't played, these harder of a teams. But I mean, just like generally watching the Cubs, both at bat and in field, they look amazing. I mean, they're fielding the ball well, quick to get these outs, and especially hitting the ball well. I mean, I just tuned in to PCA. I'm PCA at bat the other day, and I think he had like probably 2 or 3 RBIs, and I've seen that he's leading the league in RBIs, which is pretty good for him. And I like how you mentioned that he is an MVP race, but yes, we have Shohei Ohtani in the league, and as long as he's in the league, I think that he's just gonna have an edge over PCA. But with that being said, I think the Cubs by the end of the season can scratch into the top five.
For
They're a
sure.
very well-rounded team.
Agreed.
I just think right now we just have to see probably a tougher series, and I have to look at the schedule to see who the next series is. But in my opinion, they're doing
They're
well.
doing
And
great.
as for my Blue Jays, yeah, as for my Blue Jays, a few games out the wild card spot, but I don't want that to take away that they have been playing great ball recently. They had a 5 game win streak, and yes, it was against the Athletics, but they still looked amazing and dominant in that, even the comeback win against Athletics. Also, note to mention, yes, they just lost one recently to the Phillies. The Phillies are a great team, but being able to get one today, I think it most definitely helps them and betters them in their favor for the playoff race. But it'll be interesting to see how this playoff race is because, like I said, it's really close in a general sense. These ML, like I think, down to your eighth or ninth seed or eighth seed at least, can make a general push for the
Hmm.
playoffs. Even then, like I said, the Rangers, although they have a losing record right now, they can still, turn it around and make the playoffs. Yes, that's going to be difficult in a tough AL West race, but it can always be done. But with that being said, we can jump into some soccer talk. Champions League. Adam, I know you watched it, and if you just want to give your quick takes on this before we wrap the show up.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't much of a game, unfortunately. PSG just completely dominated Inter Milan. 5-0 victory. So PSG really showed that they're one of the best teams in the world. Um, so that's pretty much all I have to say about that. But talking about Chelsea a little bit. So for people that don't know, the Champions League's like they're basically taking like the top four clubs in each division because there's so many leagues in Europe um, and on the eastern side of the world. So you're basically just taking the best of the best and then putting them in one big giant tournament and then duking it out. So the Conference League is basically the UEFA Conference League is the tournament one tier below that. So next year now they qualified for the Champions League by finishing top four in the English Premier League, but they were able to win 4-1 in the Conference League against Real Betis, and the score does not tell the entire story in that case. That one I watched from start to finish. They were down 1-0 the whole first half, and then they came out. Cole Palmer, the best player on Chelsea, he definitely showed that he is that player. He had 2 very nice assists where he was just dribbling right around the box and with his head up too, like looking for the open player. So they were able to get a quick goal back and then 2-1, and then it just kind of all the wheels fell off for Real Betis, and Chelsea ended up winning in a landslide victory 4-1. So big win for them. Um, what else? Oh yeah, and then in that final game of the season, they were able to beat Nottingham Forest 1-0, which secured the top four finish. And then Newcastle's in fourth, and they dropped to fifth, so they will not be in the Champions League next year. And just a big signing that just happened. Liam Delap, if I'm saying that correctly. Chelsea just signed him. He's a striker from Ipswich City. Again, sorry if I'm butchering that, but it was 30 million. So anyone that doesn't know how English football works, it's not like there's trades or drafts or anything like that. They all have different academies, and then from there on out, it's basically you're just buying and selling players. So they had to pay 30 million English sterling price, which basically equates to like 40 million US dollars, just to acquire the rights to then they have to sign to a contract after that. So it gets a little complicated at that point, but he's a big striker. He had 12 Premier League goals last year, so he should be a huge impact player for Chelsea moving forward. They have Nicholas Jackson, who he's a great player when he's having a good game, but he's very inconsistent as well. So I think just having that level of competition where either like I've heard that maybe Chelsea will sell Nicholas Jackson now, but I really like the guy, I like the kid, and just keep him there and let him and Liam just duke it out and see the best man win. And it's always good to have depth, especially in a game like soccer where you have a 90-minute game. You have the biggest field of any single sport as well. So it's a battle of endurance. Shape's really important. And Delap's only 22 years old now, and Chelsea's now signed him until the end of the 2030-2031 season. So it's a combination of excitement and skepticism from most people around the world that have looked at it. But yeah, we'll find out if he's worth the money, basically.
Yeah, so wrapping up, our show today. We covered a lot. And I want to say this next episode, we will start to be going live on YouTube. So make sure to tune in to that. But before we close out, I just want to take a quick second to, promote this, our Only the Achievers brand. Hold up. I said I'd do it for my friends on the podcast, but anybody that likes baggy fitting, feel free to shop, and I'm doing this a favor for my friends. But
Nice.
I'm always a supporter
Nice.
of people's brands and my brand in general. But Only the Achievers is my brand and my friends' brand that we are launching right now. Order on the website. Come in. The research run big, but it's great fitted. But to close out this segment, I would like to say this: we covered a lot of uprising players, a lot of teams in MLB, and a lot of teams on the rise. And we're only gonna keep covering that next week. But stay tuned to next week where we give our finals prediction, not our finals predictions, but we give our finals recap because hopefully it is over by then. And if it's not over by then, we can at least give some insight to it. I think it shouldn't be over, but it should probably be like around game 3 or 4 by next week when we go live. But tune in to us on live. We like the comments and all the activity. Keep it up. Love from inside the locker room, and y'all stay safe. Hope y'all enjoyed this episode.